What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. So this is going to be your character and stat equipment, kind of the Omni guide here. So real quick, before we get into the meat and bones of this, there's a couple things on this screen I noticed most people miss. If you click Team Info over here, that's going to go ahead and take you to all the team assembly pages. So if you are getting frustrated because your team changes or whatever, or you're constantly swapping things in and out, you can make them all right here, guys. You can make, it's Untamed Sanctum is a fire boss. You could put in, okay, usually I use Ren and Lika, but now I can use my water heroes. But I have to switch them out. No, I just make them right here for this week, and then next week, if it's like a water boss, all right, bring in your green units. So that's one thing. Number two, if you click on the stats menu, it'll go ahead and have kind of a breakdown for all the different stats. And then give you, in case you're not clear on some of the things, because these things are actually useful for some of the treks, like you need a level 40 character that's a male, and as I found out during my trek video, the cat bot that has pink on is a male. So I was like, okay, cool. It's just stuff like that. But then also you get a breakdown of your stats right here. So, offensive and defensive. Now, let's see, where should I go first with this? I've kind of set this up as a demonstration, so I haven't really focused Ash, but he has better gear than this, even though I haven't focused him. But this is for the demonstration purposes of this video, so let's get into it here. So your very last slot is for your Grimoire. Your Grimoire is going to open up your third skill, or passive in a lot of cases. That's crafted. You can get the materials from Untamed Sanctum, and I'm sure there's probably like quest rewards or achievements or something that give you something. But anyway, so that's what that is. So I don't even have any Grimoires right now. I haven't focused on it yet. Now, as for your gear, so here's what happens. And as you get higher tier stuff like 4-star, 5-star, there's going to be more substats. But the way that gear is comprised in the game, there's always going to be a main stat, which is right here. Now, your main stat, if you go to Equipment Fortification, and let's say I want to sack this, you see how the main stat gets higher. So that's always going to get higher the higher you level the gear. It's always your main stat and only your main stat. Now, when you go to raise level cap, which means that you have another piece of gear that is exactly the same as the previous one, you queue it up, no matter what kind you queue up, like you see this one's level 40, it gives you the same exact upgrade. And the upgrade's already gonna, excuse me, always gonna be on the primary, if this is like your main stat or whatever that's affected, the upgrade is gonna be your main, first thing under the main stat, I don't even know what to call it, but essentially, it's gonna be the first skill underneath whatever the main stat is. Now, this can happen even if it's like a level 1 piece of gear. So I see a lot of you have some, depending where you are in the game, some 2-star, some 3-star pieces. You're not using them as fodder, you're not, I'll show you the conversion stuff later. But, just go ahead and, if you got a character that you're building but you don't want to give them fat gear right now, hey, take your 2-stars, sack a bunch into each other, max level them, and then you got, depending on what it is, max 2-star attack or max 2-star skill cooldown or whatever it may be. So be looking at that if you're a little bit higher on your gear level right now. Maybe take all your 3-stars and do it if you're not using them. And that's just a suggestion there. So the way that gear is comprised though, like I said, main stat, then you're going to have your top stat. Your top stat is always going to have the highest stat, even at base level, than anything that's going to roll below, even if it is orange tier, which is the highest tier. If you notice, there's different, well, on some gear, at least armor, there's different colors. It'll be like green, and it'll be 1.61% versus blue, 2.24, orange, 3 or 4 point whatever. So, that's how that works, and it's kind of RNG. That's pretty much one of the few RNG things about gear. Let's see if I can find a better example. So this gear, actually I think the 2-stars is a bad example. Okay, let's look at 3-stars here. So counter rate, you see how that's green, 0.64. But I might get something that'll be like counter rate blue, 0.87, 1.2, whatever it is. Block rate. whatever. So you get the basic thing, and once you get the higher star gear, 4-star gear, 5-star gear, it's gonna have 3 substats, whatever. Now, as far as what you should be gearing for who, I'm gonna give you some general guidelines, because to be perfectly honest, a lot of characters are unique in this game, and what I'm gonna tell you isn't necessarily for every character of that type. But in general, okay, in general, your DPS should have attack, crit rate, crit damage, and... oh, that's another thing I need to get to. Hold on, I'll get back to that. So let's get to the stats real quick. You notice here, because I've seen a lot of people, they say crit damage plus rate, 35%, but then crit rate right here is 2.29%. Well, that's with the bonus. And you guys might be wondering, well, what's the difference? One's crit damage, clearly, but do they both have crit rate? As far as the testing I've seen, yes, this does actually affect rate as well. But I don't know, it's like some weird multiplier that they have in this game, so... but essentially, it's more for crit damage, but it does affect your crit rate too. Crit rate is the percentage chance, if I'm not being clear, on how much chance you have to crit. So if you go by this, then this character right now has like about 39% chance to crit. You add both of these two up with the bonuses over here. So that's one thing I wanted to clear up real quick. But real quick, your character should be geared for, well, I'm talking about DPS here, attack, crit rate, crit damage, pierce damage. Now, there are some characters that are going to benefit from other things, such as dealt damage increase rate. That's a good one to get as well, but there's not so much of that available from gear right away, so you will get more of it, though, as you see. Dealt damage increase rate, depending on how much of it you can get, can be better, but it's like this weird multiplier thing I'm not going to go into right now, because most people are too early game to worry about that stuff. Attack speed, for the most part, you're only going to get attack speed from your passive talent tree, and then later on from various things. Pierce damage, for those who don't know, that's armor ignore. So right now he's ignoring 7 points of damage. We'll just straight up ignore armor. You can get a bonus to that, but you have to build it fairly high for it to be really effective. And pierce rate, as you can see here, that is actually a percentage of armor that you are ignoring. So that is actually the better thing to build up. You see I got it just a little bit built up there, but for your PvP matches and against raid bosses, etc., pierce rate's always going to be really good. Any high armor, going to be really good. But even like low armor targets, if you can get a healer and they don't have a ton of armor, then you're just going to hit them that much harder and hopefully make them burn more cooldowns and eventually kill them faster. So in general, that's what your DPS should have. Now there are exceptions, such as Proxy. Proxy having healing ability. If you have a piece of gear and say it's attack, crit rate, crit damage, pierce, and healing ability, some of you guys might bummer on that healing ability. But for someone like Proxy or any type of DPS that has a healing component to their attacks, it's perfectly fine. You know, like, yeah, you'd probably prefer to have all damage buffs, but beggars can't be choosers all the time, so... And then also, certain characters need more accuracy. You'll be able to just look at them and tell which ones. And then skill cooldown reduction can be really good for those characters that have longer skill cooldown reductions, such as Angelo. He's one of them, your caster-style DPS. So, one other thing I'd like to make note of for DPS before we leave them is, if you have someone like Este that is a majority single target, your single target DPSers and your finishers in general, you're going to want them to have pierce damage. Clearly, excuse me. Clearly, you're going to want physical attack. Crit rate, crit damage, that's always good as well. But a single target DPS, counter rate's not a terrible thing. Especially if they have any type of on-hit effect from their Grimoire. As well as... what was the last thing? Deal damage increase rate's actually really good for a single target or finisher character. Finisher characters, if you don't know, there are a couple characters in this game. I forget exactly which ones right now, but, certain characters below 50% deals bonus damage, or someone like the dude with the afro, who deals bonus damage against dark units. A lot of dark meta units in this game. Characters like that, single target damage is going to be really good. So, and you focus more so on their physical attack, their pierce, their crit damage, a little bit of counter for some of them if they have on-hit effects, and damage dealt. So, fairly simple stuff there. Now, for your... I guess we'll go to tanks. Clearly, you're going to want HP and defense. That's not a bad thing. Now, there's a couple schools of thought to tanking. PvE, you generally, in my opinion, want taken damage reduction. Crit resist rate, that's going to help too, but gearing for it in general, because usually you have people that decrease crit chance as a debuff on certain enemies that are going to be really hard later on. Status effect resist rate, you know, depends what you're fighting. Might be really good, might not be. I'm talking about PvE right now, guys. And then healing received is going to be a really important stat. Now, for PvP, there is another school of thought, and I have seen it done successfully, so hear me out on this one. You still do max HP and defense, but instead of going full-on, like, damage reduction, etc., you go block rate, and you get your block rate along with your passive tree to as high as you can. The thinking is, if you're running either a stall team or just like a really beefy tank that has to stay up with one healer and, you know, maybe a support and 2 DPS or 3 DPS, block is essentially damage negation. So you go to hit something, he just blocks it, that's that. No damage. But the problem with block rate is that means that you're not going to have taken damage reduction rate, and you might dip into some of the other stats such as healing received. So when you do get hit, you get hit, right? But in PvP, I've actually seen it done successfully well enough to where he will block even like AoE moves to a point. Now, I'm not saying for every character it stops the AoE damage, but if you're stopping it on your main tank, and especially if you have someone like Ophelia who takes a percentage of every character's AoE damage, and she just blocks stuff, it's very risky to play with as her, I will say that, but it can be done. I've seen it done successfully in PvP, and it is really freaking frustrating when you're fighting against an opponent with a high block rate tank. So, especially if that tank has a taunt at the same time. So that's a school of thought there, but in general, most of you guys, I want to play safe, HP, defense, healing received, taking damage reduction rate, and whatever else you can get when you can get it. Now, someone like Lucius, a little bit of healing ability on him's not bad, because he does have his one that does healing bonus along with a defense buff. Now, we'll get into supports and healers, because they kind of gear the same way. For those who don't know, because I ran into this question, a difference between a support and a healer in this game. Your healers basically have... Of course they have healing, but supports have healing too, a lot of them. But your healers have resurrection, because they're bringing stuff back to life. So in this game, Helena and Sophia are basically your main healers. All of us have a Sophia. If you're really lucky, you got a Helena. If you got them both, you get that passive buff for mitigation. That's really good. But anyway, so what's very important... Or excuse me, I should get to the supports. Your supports are going to be like Shome, Yggdrasil, Nekobot... I know there's like a couple others, I just forget right now. Supports are basically there to buff the team, throw out a heal when needed, and yeah, that's pretty much it in general. So, like AoE defense buff, in Yggdrasil's case, a damage immunity, one-time damage immunity, barriers in Nekobot's case, damage reduction talents, etc. So... and also, same thing with, like, offensive buffs, attack buff, crit buff, or maybe throw out some debuffs, like, debuff immunity down 20% or whatever. Now, as far as gearing them goes, in general, most of them aren't going to turn into DPS machines, but they can actually become semi-tanks, which is kind of interesting, because there are some things in this game, God, I can't really show you guys right now, but... I forget exactly which ones it is. Follow me on this, though. You know your team composition. When you have one unit in the front, there's no damage reduction there. But then the next row, it has 15% damage reduction. The row after that is 30% damage reduction. But you can't just throw everyone in the back row. You need one person in the front, one person in the middle. But on some maps, if you don't have a person in the middle, or two people in the front, rather, it won't give you the 15% bonus to the middle row and the 30% bonus to the back. It'll be 15% in the back, 0 in the middle. So in that case, you are going to need a second character that is either beefy enough to be up there, depending on elemental affinities, etc., or in general, and having your healer or support up there, while risky, if you can pull it off, is a little bit safer than having your DPS up there. But in general, you usually early and mid-game want to protect your healer and keep them in the back when you can. But I'm just saying, you can build your healer tanky is one thing. So keep that in mind as I'm saying this. Same thing with your supports. Max HP is going to be really good. Defense to a point. You do want them to stay alive, especially your ones with Resurrection. Status effect resist rate is actually very important for healers, because if they're not, if they're stunned or whatever, they're silenced, they're not able to do what they need to do. Healing ability is going to be really important for your supports and your healers. And I guess they technically count in the offensive tree. Skill cooldown reduction is going to be very important for especially your resurrection spells or your heals with very long cooldowns, such as the Yggdrasil's ulti with the healing over time and the defense buff. So that's going to be super important. If you have a support that throws out a debuff, then accuracy is going to be fairly important for that, because it's very easy to debuff healer accuracy depending on what you're fighting, what's going on there. I think that pretty much covers the majority of how you should be gearing. Now, once again, like I said, that's not the same for everybody. Certain people are going to have certain quirks, such as skill cooldown reduction is actually good on this DPS because of his long cooldowns, like Angelo. Or healing ability is important on someone like Proxy, even though he's a DPS. So keep that in mind, guys. If you find a better way to gear stuff and play stuff, these are just overall suggestions for how you should be building some of the characters. Now, let's see here. Oh gosh, I may have actually covered most of what I wanted to say. Yeah, okay, so let's go to team compositions in general, because I have gotten a question about that. I'll show you guys what I run. We'll just go to campaign. So this is my campaign team right now. The reason behind it, and I'll show you the formation. That's the basic formation right now. You know, even if I throw, like, say, him in front, it's the same damage reductions. So now, reason I got this team versus, because you guys have seen my character tree, and you're like, well, why aren't you using so-and-so? Well, Proxy does good DPS, and he has a heal component. Cicero, I mean, do I really need to justify Cicero to you guys? Damien, reason I use Damien. Nuke's fairly hard, but the cool thing is he has a heal, a self-heal that heals one other person. So Ashe, just good DPS. And Sophia, I mean, clearly use Sophia for the heals and the resurrection. And this gets through pretty much most of the content I need to fight. Occasionally, if I'm fighting something that's really hard holy, I switch things out. But for the most part, this is the team I'm running right now. In general, let me look at all of the various things. Because, you know, once again, not everyone's going to have the same units. Your campaign units should be whichever team has a good balance of survivability and DPS as fast as possible. Arena, it's kind of the same thing, but you want AoE damage, as much burst damage with AoE buffs. And, of course, some healing and resurrection. Explorations, depending on if you're being active in your explorations or not. If you're not being active in your explorations, and by active I mean you are watching and using cooldowns, or you're sitting there basically playing it like it's a campaign mission versus it running itself auto. In general, explorations, early matches, keep a team because it compounds the damage as you keep going. So if you go into a battle with 80% health, or you leave a battle, excuse me, with 80% health, you're going into one with 80% health. So you should try to have at least one support, one healer, two very good DPS, and a very good tank. If you can get away with a third DPS that has a healing component, you could possibly do that, depending on what you got. Special, I'm not even sure what special is. That might be, oh, special's the farming dungeons. For special in general, just whatever can clear it. You don't really have to worry about timers usually for that. Raid, once again, it should be elemental weakness stuff, or characters that can sustain themselves and do very good damage. Tessay's really good in Raid. And characters like that. Untamed Sanctum, right now it's a fire boss, so if you got some good water heroes, or any heroes, it's basically the same as Raid. That's pretty much your good hero composition teams. Now, one other thing to note, other than, and I'll probably make a separate video for this, but let me just go ahead and share it, because some of you guys actually don't know, which I'm very surprised about. Link guide. There's a link guide. Link means two characters that you have that have some type of synergy, and when you get that synergy, it's going to give you a link effect. Now, the link, it also gives you a reward, which is going to be this currency, which I'm still not sure exactly what that does. Oh, actually, yeah, I know what. Never mind. It's most of the time it's going to give you a passive bonus. So you see here, if you manage to get Inomane, and good luck with that. All of a sudden, 5.49 pierce rate, link effect for these heroes. And then same thing with if you get her and Luna together. Not only do you get attack and max HP, but you also get a pretty sick heal that is also increases damage taken by the enemy for 60 seconds and decreased damage of the enemy for 60 seconds. And there are all types of really cool little combinations here and bonuses. And so, like if you get Colette and, forget his name, Mr. Bitch Boy there. You get yourself another AoE here. Hits 4 people, inflicts shock. Shock can't use regular attacks or active skills, removed when hit. Amazing for PvP, amazing for any type of encounter where you're fighting against pretty much anything, honestly, but especially fire stuff that isn't immune. And there's all types of little cool combos down here, guys. So there's one for Lydia, or excuse me, what was it, Ren and Laika. Laika's her name. Where not only do you get more attack and HP, but you also get little damage AoE here that inflicts burn. So if you have a character that synergizes with burn, which is another thing I need to go over, I'll do that in a second too. Synergizes with burn and a debuff here, decrease crit resist rate by 10%. It's just really good stuff, guys, and all the skills themselves actually look really cool as well. I'll go ahead and load one up here so you guys can see it. And then I'll get into my final points and we'll be done with this video. And I do actually have a question for you guys too, which is going to be kind of comical. So this is what like a sync skill looks like, so you get both the characters. Oh yeah, I forgot this skill always crits too. I think I missed that. So pretty good stuff there, pretty good stuff. And who knows, maybe you got like an OP Link skill, that would be pretty fun to do. Now real quick, we'll go back to the hero screen. I got 2 more things to do. Actually, 3 more things to show you. Number 1, there are little combo skills. I've gone over this, but I don't think I've gone over it much in my recent videos, so let's go to it again. Chain effects. So be on the lookout for chain effects. So in this case, Ash's chain effect with his 1 skill that he uses here. Deal damage equal to 258.7% of attack to enemies affected by poison. Guaranteed critical. So this is a single target for those who know. And it already has its basic effect here. Inflicts burn, damage equal to yada yada yada. You know, twice basically ticks. And 30% chance to burn, which decreases crit resist rate by 10%. But the chain effect, if you hit someone that's poisoned with this, well, hey, it's going to do a butt-ton more damage, basically the base damage again. Oh, actually, wow. Does that actually chain to all enemies? I'm not sure the way that that's worded. I still think it's a single target skill, but maybe it chains to all enemies. Who knows? I haven't ever looked at that. I've never had people poisoned multiple times. Where I've paid attention, at least. But essentially, it turns into an auto-crit skill with double the base damage. So, nothing wrong with that. A bunch of characters have chain effects in this game. You're just going to have to find it for your own. But so clearly I should be running someone that has poison with this hero. Was poison, right? Yeah. So you know, like in general, I could get this hero to do that. I know, like, either Leica or Ren, I forget which one has poison. And then... I actually don't think... I think he has bleed. Oh, he is blind. Yeah, it's even better. Or, it's a different thing. Anyway, so... be aware of that. Now let's get back into gear real quick. One more thing I will show you guys. And this one I actually don't know for sure, so... Like, let's say I got this piece of gear, I don't need it, I don't want to sell it. Okay, let's convert it. I guess we'll have to pick something else. Conversion gives you this currency, which is Untamed Sand. I have no idea what Untamed Sand is. I have tried to look around for it. I've even gone to, like, my inventory, and look, when I go to my inventory, like, I'll hit other. Where's the freaking Untamed Sand? I have 2 somewhere. It's not there. It's not going to be in Soul Stones. And it's not going to be in gear or anything like that. And I went looking around in the shops and stuff, and I couldn't find a currency to spend it on. So if anyone knows that offhand, I'd really appreciate knowing what that's used for. But, and then the last thing, I did get this question in the last video. If you have a character that is fully level broke, like level 65, a +5 character, and you get another copy of that character, you're just going to want to convert the character and use, get the resources for him. So, retire, basically. I'm not going to hit it in case something goes wrong, but use the retire button, and then you'll get some currency for him. Not sure what the currency does right now, but I'm sure it's useful for something. Ah, hell, let me just go pick, like, a scrub character, and we'll do it. Let's say I'm going to do this. Retire Metal Golem. Arn, boy. Oh boy. But I don't know if there's like higher tier stuff if you get either a ton more Arn or maybe some other material, but that's pretty much all you can do, guys, so that's that. Anyways, I hope this was useful for you guys. If you feel like I missed something, ask me a question. I'll be happy to answer it. If you got some better explanations for some of the things, be happy to share it, as long as you guys aren't being like jerks, like some people are. Like, you didn't talk about the one thing that I do that you don't do. You're a noob. I get that comment all the time. That's fine. Whatever. It just shows the maturity level of some people. It's fun. Oh, real quick though, if you guys are wondering what I'm planning on building after I build these characters, the reason I built these characters first, by the way, Ren, just overall solid character. You can get him to get a copy of him early, get him to level 45. Sophia should need no explanation. This guy, I'm running him basically for the chill effect on the fire raid bosses. Really good for debuffing him. This guy, just because he has blind, which 50% chance for attacks to miss, pretty good in PvP, as well as a heal effect for himself and a teammate. So you can actually get him nuking hard. I just need to build him more. I built her because she has poison for him whenever I'm fighting stuff that I need that on. Lucius, just because he's god tier tank. Got him at +4 now. Proxy, because he's basically a god and everything. But my next characters I'm going to be building, I'll be building Tesse once I'm done with all the dark units up here. Really good boss killer, just really solid solo damage. Very good finisher. I always forget this character's name, but she's really good too. Just really good AoE damage. Este, yeah. So lots of AoE damage here, as well as extra fixed damage. Leadership, not bad for if you run like a full physical team and you manage to get a bunch of copies of her. That's actually a pretty badass leadership. And then I believe she gets like a, yeah, increased crit rate, as well as decreased block rate. So could be really good in PvP against block teams, but of course, how are you going to know what you're fighting in PvP? But eventually I'll have her as one of my fire nukers. I have built him up a little bit, I haven't really geared. This is Dark Hill, for those who don't know, one of the better SRs in the game. And he has poison, so that synergizes well with Ash. A little bit of AoE, good times. So he's on my short list. Nekobot, gonna be an extra support for me. This girl also has decreased healing ability, Casca. And a really hard nuke on her 3, 239% guaranteed critical for one enemy. But still pretty solid as a finisher. And then if you get a Grimoire, she throws Burn out, which would be good for Burn synergy. So she's on my short list, and then I'm looking at other characters right now, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Anyways, guys, that'll be it for your gear guide and / character guide, so hopefully this helped you out. I think I pretty much covered most of the stuff. Eventually, we'll probably get into, like, specific builds of characters, but for now, I figured a general video would be fine. Just a quick announcement, too. I will be traveling for part of this month, so quality of my videos is going to have to go down because I'll be recording it on my phone. I apologize for that in advance, but it's just the way it is. I can't lug my PC around everywhere, and I don't have a laptop currently, which I need to get a laptop. That is something I need to put on my short list. But my traveling thing comes first, so that's going to be that. But anyways, guys, so yo, I'm Showtime Doctor, Showtime DR. You found my YouTube. You can hit like and subscribe if you felt this video helped you or you enjoyed the content. I appreciate all the kind words. Also, you can click show more under the video. It's a link to my Twitch and Discord. Self-explanatory what those do. And that'll be it for me, guys. Gonna stream this probably a little bit right now, and that's all I got. So, hope this guide helped you. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.